Diaspora Audio Enterprises presents
The Black Press Audio Digest, our weekly Los Angeles edition for the week of March 6th through 12th, 2014. On the front page,
Pioneering Women, celebrating the lives and legacy of our sisters.
our feature story.
Williams brother duo runs the Venus and Serena Williams Tennis Academy.
In the news,
Obama aims to bypass Congress with My Brother's Keeper initiative.
New City Report urges sweeping changes in LA Fire Department.
Senators Wright and Calderon take leave of absence.
Black films discussed at NAACP Hollywood Bureau Symposium.
The devil's in the details. What else is in Obama's budget?
Big goal. Enroll.
California Lottery launches first corporate social responsibility website.
On the op-ed page,
U.S. spending extraordinary amounts on guard labor.
counting the cost, the Obama legacy.
And to be equal.
In the community section,
Question Bridge provides answers for men of color.
and
Community colleges promote Affordable Care Act for students.
in the art, culture, and entertainment section.
Hollywood by Choice and the Entertainment Calendar.
And now to our cover story.
Local black women become pioneers from the arts, sports, and in politics.
Celebrating the Sheroes Among Us by Meredith Hayes, OW staff writer.
There has always been a pioneering spirit among black women in Los Angeles and throughout the nation. That courage and character, not often recognized by contemporaries, may be traced as far back as businesswoman Biddy Mason, who did everything from manning a stagecoach to founding the city's African-American Methodist Episcopal Church, to journalists Charlotta Bath and Ruth Washington, who elevated women into the Los Angeles publishing, political pioneers Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, and Yvonne Brathwaite Burt, to present-day sheroes, some of whom may travel in famous circles, and others who often toil in obscurity to brighten the future for the next generation of black girls. March is Women's History Month, a celebration of the accomplishments that women have made throughout the nation's history, from colonial poet Phyllis Wheatley to First Lady Michelle Obama, the latter joining her husband, President Barack Obama, this spring to spotlight the many achievements women are credited for since our nation's founding. As part of a century-old and ever-evolving movement, countless women have put their shoulder to the wheel of progress activists who gathered at Seneca Falls and gave expression to a righteous cause, trailblazers who defied convention and shattered glass ceilings, millions who claimed control of their own bodies, voices, and lives. Together, they have pushed our nation towards equality, liberation, and acceptance of women's rights, not only to choose their own destinies, but also to shape the futures of peoples and nations, President Obama said March 1st. Los Angeles certainly has its share of present-day women trailblazers. This past Sunday, millions around the world watched the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences honor the best and brightest in the film industry, and at the helm of the festivities was Cheryl Boone Isaacs. Isaacs has served on the AMPAS for 21 years and last summer became the organization's first African-American president and only the third woman to hold the post, following Betty Davis in 1941 and Faye Canaan in 1979. The Obama administration has been a staunch advocate of women's rights. One of the first bills signed in 2009 was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which made it easier for women to challenge pay discrimination. The Affordable Health Care Act banned insurance companies from charging women more because of their gender, and last year, the Armed Forces opened ground combat units to women. As we honor the many women who have shaped our history, let us also celebrate those who make progress in our time, Obama said last weekend. Let us remember that when women succeed, America succeeds. And from Wall Street to Main Street, in the White House and on Capitol Hill, let us put our nation on the path to success. To read the entire Women's History Month tribute that includes journalist and sportswoman Paula Mason, ophthalmologist Patricia Bath, and Congress member Karen Bass, visit ourweekly.com.
And now to our feature story.
The Williams brothers have developed young tennis players for more than 40 years.
Duo runs the Venus and Serena Williams Tennis Academy at the Rancho Cienega Sports Complex by Jason Lewis, OW staff writer.
In the tennis world, the Williams sisters are royalty, as Venus and Serena have continued to rack up Grand Slam titles and Olympic gold medals. But they are not the only well-known Williams siblings. The Williams brothers, Richard and Fred, no relation to the Williams sisters, have made their mark on the sport for more than 40 years. And they have helped more than 200 young tennis players obtain college scholarships. Most of those players are young black kids from South Los Angeles. The Williams brothers played a role in developing the Williams sisters, as Venus and Serena trained under Richard and Fred at Rancho Cienega Sports Complex when they were kids. The Williams sisters' father, Richard Williams, was the driving force behind his daughters becoming dominant tennis players. He learned how to play tennis during his younger days, and he was first taught the game by Richard Williams, brother of Fred. Knowing that the Williams brothers knew their stuff, Father Richard would drop off his daughters to them for training. The Williams brothers were born and raised in Watts, and they started playing tennis at Roy Rogers Park, now known as Ted Watkins Park. They attended Jordan High School, where they figured out that tennis would be their route over football, basketball, or baseball, which a lot of black athletes were playing. I realized that when I was in high school, I wasn't going to play football, Richard said. It was too rough. And basketball, you had to be tall. I could play basketball, but I realized that I was going to be sitting on the bench. Richard was on the basketball team at Jordan, but heading into his senior season, the coach let him know that most of the players from the team that had made the playoffs the year before were coming back, and he probably would not get a lot of playing time. Richard saw the writing on the wall, and he knew that in a sport like tennis, everybody played, so he would have more opportunities. As a black athlete, Richard was quicker than most of his opponents, who were mostly white. He focused on his tennis skills and became the first black player to be named to the Los Angeles City Section All-City team. His accomplishments earned him a tennis scholarship to Pepperdine University. Both of the Williams brothers graduated from Cal State University, Los Angeles, and played tennis in the military. After their playing days were over, they did not leave the sport. They decided to help younger players, and they knew that with the athletic abilities in the African American community, they could produce some outstanding tennis players while giving children an alternative to street life. Kids would come out and they were athletically inclined, which means that they can pick up on tennis a lot quicker, Richard said. One of the reasons why I was able to pick up on tennis a little faster was the fact that I did play football. I did play basketball. If we could get more kids from these different sports, oh my God. Even Arthur Ashe said it, that if you get these kids from the inner city to play some tennis, it's going to be a different situation. The Williams brothers created a hotbed for tennis talent, and they had some of the best young tennis players in the area. We had so many juniors out here that were tough, Fred said. It was like a haven because we had so many good players. Even some of the white juniors started coming over here. We had a lot of the top players in Southern California. Tennis is known as a rich white sport, but the Williams brothers created an environment that black kids could excel in. We had these kids coming out, Richard said. They were very enthusiastic about playing. It was good. Fred recalls the first time Ashe, one of the greatest tennis players ever, came out to their training session, and he was shocked to see so many young black tennis players who could play the game at a high level. He was so happy with what he saw that he spent several hours playing with the children when he only planned to stop by for a short period of time. The Williams brothers' main goal is to get kids to college, and they have succeeded at that. We've helped people get college scholarships, Fred said. USC, Georgetown. Now most of them are going to the black colleges. We've had about 9 go to Morehouse, and about 8 went to Clark. The Williams brothers helped one family obtain scholarships for all 6 of their children. Otherwise, they would not have been able to go to college. It was too much money, Richard said. The program that the Williams brothers run is also about education, because without the grades, the athletic and tennis abilities are wasted. We would question them on math or on Black history, Fred said. Before they would leave the court, they would have to tell us something. Tennis is a very expensive sport, so the Williams brothers have also worked out a manageable price for families who cannot afford typical tennis rates. Their goal is to help out their community, and they have succeeded at an extremely high rate at doing that. For more information, visit VenusSerenaTennisAcademy.org.
And now, in the news.
Obama aims to bypass Congress with My Brother's Keeper initiative.
Plan reaches out to nonprofit foundations to implement his agenda. By Greg Reese, OW contributor.
President Obama's State of the Union address and his recently announced My Brother's Keeper initiative might be considered his response to the prolonged inflexibility of Congress during the course of his administration. Designed specifically to target young men of color, it aims to help them economically and educationally, two areas in which assistance is undoubtedly needed. In order to do this, Obama wants to sidestep the legislative arm that thus far has rendered his previous efforts ineffective by tapping an overlooked resource: huge charitable organizations known as foundations. The foundations listed thus far include a roster of heavy hitters like the Ann E. Casey Foundation, the California Endowment, the Ford Foundation, and the Kellogg Foundation, to mention a few. Their initial goal, an expenditure of $200 million, seems like an enormous sum to start a philanthropic enterprise, but upon closer examination, this is not so impressive. Spread out over 5 years, this funding comes out to about $40 million per annum, not a pricey sum at all considering it is meant to uplift all young men of color across the continental United States, plus Alaska and Hawaii. My Brother's Keeper is likely meant to be a partnership with the Promise Zone, announced at the State of the Union address, and earmarking 5 geographic areas deemed hardest hit by the recession and therefore eligible for federal assistance. Other programs are likely to follow and will surely solidify another label Obama shares with Roosevelt, one of a socialist, or further left, a communist. While the president's selection of sources to bypass Congress to fund his initiatives may be a novel approach, these proposals are not without precedent. Michael R. Bloomberg's Young Men's Initiative, launched during his tenure as mayor of New York City in 2011, earmarked some $127 million from the public and private sectors for the advancement of Black and Latino young men. More recently and closer to home, the California Endowment statewide Sons and Brothers campaign began in the last quarter of 2013 with some $50 million proposed to address such fundamental obstacles as discipline and behavior problems in the education and justice system that inhibit young boys' progress through the school system. These organizations are among the 10 original participants listed as part of My Brother's Keeper, and 2 of the programs will likely be absorbed in the president's larger initiative. Thus far, no specifics have been worked out. Over the next 3 months, areas will be selected and prioritized. The all-important methods of evaluating which programs actually work and other large and small details will be determined and hopefully ironed out.
Also in the news.
New City Report urges sweeping changes in LA Fire Department.
Audit prescribes improvements to management style by City News Service.
Management of the Los Angeles Fire Department needs to be streamlined with the agency divided into 4 geographic bureaus, the cumbersome disciplinary process overhauled, and the fire chief given a 5-year employment contract, according to a consultant report released this week. The report by PA Consulting, which was hired to review the deployment of LAFD resources after concerns arose about the department's reporting of response times, and found that the department suffers from cultural aversion to change in fear of litigation. Though worries raised by the city leaders often focus on funding, management appears to be the bigger issue facing the department. City Administrative Officer Miguel Santana said of the report findings. The fire department budget increased from $472 million in the 2011 to 2012 fiscal year to $550 million this year, a financial trajectory that few departments in the city have experienced, he said. Clearly, the finances have actually improved, he said. When you take that out of the equation, then you're forced to look at the overall management of the department. The report recommends the appointment of a deputy chief to oversee the agency's paramedic operations, which account for the majority of LAFD's calls. The dedication, heroism, and commitment to excellence of the department's men and women are unquestioned and lead to exceptional performance in terms of limiting fire loss relative to other U.S. departments, according to the report. However, the multiple interviews conducted with LAFD command staff, as with key city stakeholders and other U.S. fire departments and public safety agencies, revealed significant cultural organizational process and a technology challenge which seriously impair the department's performance. The report found the job of fire chief has evolved into a revolving position which has destabilized the LAFD. It also found that some deputy assistant and battalion chiefs have been put in positions despite lacking technical skills, and the rotation system of assistants and the battalion chiefs prevent them from developing experience to improve the department. The system has also led to a lack of support and loyalty among the rank and file for the chief. The disciplinary process is broken, driven by fear of litigation, reprisals, and the perception that it is a no-win situation, according to the report. The department is not sufficiently able to manage performance outside of the disciplinary process. To read the story in its entirety, go to OurWeekly.com.
The news continues.
Senators Wright and Calderon take leave of absence.
One awaits sentencing, one awaits trial. By O.W. Staff.
A trio of Republican state senators failed in their recent effort to oust Democratic Senator Roderick Wright, who was convicted last month of living outside the district he was elected to represent. Wright, Democrat Inglewood, has taken an indefinite leave of absence from the Senate while he awaits sentencing on 5 counts of voter fraud, 2 counts of perjury, and 1 count of filing a false declaration of candidacy. He faces up to 8 years and 4 months behind bars, with sentencing set for May 16th. Republican Senators Steve Knight, Joel Anderson, and Andy Vidak introduced a resolution calling for Wright to be expelled from the legislature. Expelling a senator requires a 2/3 vote of the Senate. Senate President Pro Tem Darrell Steinberg met with Wright last week and agreed to his request for a leave of absence. On a largely party-line vote, the resolution was referred to the Senate Rules Committee, meaning the issue likely will not be taken up prior to Wright's sentencing. Deputy District Attorney Bjorn Dodd told jurors during Wright's trial that the senator used an Inglewood property as a prop, but actually lived in Baldwin Hills. Wright's attorney, Winston Kevin McKesson, maintained that the senator had followed the law, telling jurors the lawmaker had established domicile at the Inglewood property, where his stepmother was renting a unit. While on leave, Wright will continue to collect his $95,291 annual salary, but he will not receive the $163 per diem check for each day the Senate is in session. His staff will be able to continue handling constituent requests, according to Mark Hedlund, Senate spokesman. Senator Ron Calderon, Democrat Montebello, announced this week he would also take a voluntary leave of absence from the legislature while he defends himself from federal charges of accepting more than $100,000 in cash bribes, as well as plane trips and dinners in exchange for supporting legislation. The 56-year-old lawmaker cited the nature and complexity of the charges in announcing what he expects to be a lengthy period of absence, continuing until the end of the legislative session in August.
And now in the news,
Black films discussed at NAACP Hollywood Bureau Symposium.
Black films now in vogue. Movement and industry, a hot topic. By Jason Lewis, OW staff writer.
Black films have made a resurgence over the past year as there were a number of critically acclaimed and box office successful movies produced, directed, and starring Black people. The Butler, Best Man Holiday, Fruitvale Station, and 42, to name a few, were all successful, with a defining moment being 12 Years a Slave, racking up several awards, including Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Writing Adapted Screenplay. With the success of these films, there was a lot of talk about the 10th Annual Hollywood Bureau Symposium during the 45th NAACP Image Awards Week. At the event, industry leaders discussed new trends in the black film industry as more than 300 Hollywood entertainers and aspiring television and filmmaking students were in attendance. In 2013, the film industry set a record with box office receipts, taking in more than $11 billion. Black filmmakers played a role in that, and now they are looking to capitalize on the recent success. At the event, panel participants including Director Bill Duke, CAA agent Cameron Mitchell, Senior Vice President of Production for Columbia TriStar Pictures, Devin Franklin, and author and producer Flo McAfee. Ramsey J. Jr., nationally renowned writer, interviewer, and producer, served as panel moderator. The sole sponsor for the event was the Ford Motor Company Fund, with a portion of the sponsorship directly supporting community programs, including a $10,000 grant to the Duke Media Foundation. Ford is proud to be working again with the NAACP Hollywood Bureau Symposium to showcase a renaissance in black film at all levels, said Pamela Alexander, Director of Community Development, Ford Motor Company Fund. We congratulate the award-winning Bill Duke and Duke Media Foundation for their work in developing media and financial literacy programs to prepare inner-city and gifted high school students for the new digital media age. The Hollywood Bureau Symposium was one of several popular events held during Image Awards Week.
The news continues.
With the devil's in the details. What else is in Obama's budget?
Budget for fiscal year 2015 adds up to $3.9 trillion. By Leanne Caldwell, CNN Newswire.
The battle over the budget often revolves around politically partisan issues of taxes and spending. But President Barack Obama's proposed spending plan for the next fiscal year totals $3.9 trillion, so there's a lot that can be overlooked. We read the budget plan, so you didn't have to. Here's what else is in it. Lessons learned. The State Department would receive $4.6 billion to protect staff at consulates and embassies overseas. It's a recommendation from the Benghazi Accountability Review Board after the deadly attacks that killed 4 Americans in 2012. Mental health. As mental health has received increased attention after multiple mass shootings in recent years, the budget outlines $75 million for mental health programs, specifically for youth and young adults. Mass violence. To prevent mass shootings, $10 million is proposed to train local law enforcement to respond to mass shootings. Some of that money is for a public awareness campaign to prevent such events. Compounding pharmacies. After a Massachusetts pharmacy that mixed its own medication was found to be the source of a meningitis outbreak, it was realized that compounding pharmacies slide under the radar. This budget provides $25 million for the Food and Drug Administration to inspect the facilities. From welfare to work. It's true, Obama receives a lot of flack from political adversaries for bolstering the nanny state and creating a culture of dependency. In this budget, he proposes to redirect $602 million to a program that works with employers to provide subsidized employment opportunities for low-income people. Unemployment benefits. While the president proposes an increase in federal unemployment benefits, he would also invest $3 billion to ensure people who received disability insurance benefits don't also receive unemployment benefits as well. Perhaps another item where Republicans and Democrats can reach common ground? Airport lines. The budget proposal would direct the Transportation Security Administration to focus its resources on high-risk passengers. and make it easier for low-risk passengers to pass through airport security checkpoints. TSA will improve the customer experience while enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of its screening operators, the budget document says. More prisons? The United States locks up more people per capita than any other country. To accommodate the massive number of prisoners, the president proposed $8.4 billion to continue bringing newly completed or acquired prisons online. For more on this story, go to ourweekly.com.
Also in the news, California Lottery launches first CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility website by the California Lottery.
Selling lottery tickets isn't the only thing that California Lottery is concerned about. We also prize what we do for the community, its businesses, and our public schools. With that in mind, the California Lottery is proud to be the first U.S. lottery to launch a website dedicated to its corporate social responsibility efforts. The site provides our players and stakeholders with information as to who we are outside of the product we offer. CSR touches on every aspect of our business, and it demonstrates our commitment to being a good corporate citizen. The new website, CaliforniaLottery.com, gives users the opportunity to learn more about the lottery's impact on California public schools, responsible gaming programs, and other pillars of the CSR program. The CSR website focuses on the following areas: responsible gaming, contribution to education, integrity and transparency, consumer protection and security, stakeholder engagement, environmental impact. The California Lottery is one of 2 states to hold a Level 3 certification from the World Lottery Association. Over the past year, the lottery has undergone evaluation and improvement to its responsible gaming programs as it prepares to seek a Level 4 certification from the WLA later this year. The Level 4 certification would make the California Lottery the only U.S. lottery to hold this designation, the highest level from the WLA. The mission of the California Lottery is to provide supplemental funding to California schools while supporting local communities. More than 95 cents of every dollar spent by players goes back to local communities in the form of contributions to public schools and colleges, prizes, and retail compensation. The California Lottery urges its consumers to play responsibly and within their budgets. If you feel you have a gambling problem or know someone who does, you can get help at 1-800-GAMBLER.
The news continues with
Big Goal. Enroll.
Why aren't more African Americans signing up for Covered California or Medi-Cal benefits? By Olu Alamoru, California Black Media.
As the calendar speeds toward the March 31st deadline for securing benefits through the Affordable Care Act, popularly known as Obamacare, African American enrollment in California's healthcare exchange is falling far short of expectations. Data recently released by Covered California suggests that only about 50% of eligible African Americans have signed up. Uninsured consumers now have less than a month to enroll before they are subject to penalties. $95 per adult, or 1% of your annual income, whichever is greater, and faced with an even more daunting challenge, a longer period of time among the ranks of those without health care coverage. It is perhaps all the more worrying considering that the Medi-Cal program, which has been covering Californians who could not afford health insurance since 1966, has been greatly expanded under Obamacare, making up to 2 million more people eligible. This is a huge missed opportunity for the Black community. As of January 1st, single adults ages 19 through 64 are eligible for Medi-Cal based on a simplified eligibility formula. Your annual income must be 138% or less of the federal poverty level. In 2013, that meant eligibility for individuals earning up to $15,856. According to information provided by Covered California and the California Department of Health Care Services, DHCS, the Affordable Care Act ensures that all Medi-Cal plans offer a comprehensive package of essential health benefits. These include ambulatory patient and emergency services, hospitalization, maternity and newborn care, mental health and substance abuse, prescription drugs, and laboratory services. As of 2014, the array of mental health and substance abuse services have expanded to include individual and group mental health evaluation and treatment, outpatient drug monitoring therapy, psychiatric consultation, and intensive residential and outpatient treatment services. Dental care, vision, and speech therapy services are generally only available to children and youth under 21, but dental services will be available to all adults starting this May. There are 3 ways to enroll for covered California and Medi-Cal health insurance plans. Online at coveredca.com. Over the phone by calling 800-300-1506. And in person with assistance from a certified enrollment counselor. For the full story, visit ourweekly.com.
And now to the op-ed page.
To be equal.
National Urban League endorses Common Core state standards by Mark H. Morial, Trice Ethnic columnist.
You can't allow 15,000 school boards to home bake their own little standards subject to their own political pressures and think we are going to have international competitiveness. We have to at least have some bare minimum core standards if our young people are going to compete, said Congressional Black Caucus member Bobby Scott. There is a quiet yet increasingly disruptive revolution underway in American education. Since 2010, 45 states, the District of Columbia, and the Department of Defense have adopted Common Core State Standards, or CCS, in their schools. This represents a historic opportunity to raise academic standards and better prepare students for college and good jobs. If implemented properly, Common Core State Standards will help bridge the achievement gap by leveling the playing field so that all students, regardless of race, geography, or income, have an equal shot at gaining the knowledge and skills necessary to succeed in the 21st century global economy. The National Urban League and a broad cross-section of civil rights, public policy, business, and education leaders are in full support. But while a majority of states are implementing these new and more rigorous standards in English language, arts, and math, Common Core standards remain a mystery to many parents and students, giving its critics an open lane to spread misinformation and undermine progress. Today's column represents the first of 3 and possibly more that I am writing about to help clear up the confusion and set the record straight. First, let's clarify exactly what CCS is and what it is not. The Common Core standards were developed by governors and chief state school officers from both sides of the aisle who brought together teachers, parents, school administrators, and education experts to help write them. Despite what some of its critics claim, CCS is not a top-down Big Brother federal program. The states determined that these standards were necessary to improve outcome for students, and 90% of the states within our nation have decided that they are critical to better prepare our country's students for the challenges and opportunities of today and tomorrow. Second, we are talking about academic standards, not a standardized curriculum. Common Core standards establish what students need to learn at each grade level, but they do not dictate how teachers should teach. Teachers will continue to devise lesson plans and tailor instruction to the individual needs of the students in their classrooms, ideally utilizing state standards to create even more engaging and educational approaches and content.
To read the rest of Mark H. Morial's thought-provoking editorial, visit ourweekly.com.
Also on the op-ed page,
U.S. spending extraordinary amounts on guard labor
by Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., Trice Ethnic Newswire.
American gun control costs lives and feeds our fears. Consider the most recent injustice in Florida, the verdict in the Michael Dunn case, and the most recent news about America's guard labor. In Jacksonville, Florida, Michael Dunn, a 47-year-old white male, was aggravated by the loud rap music coming from an SUV filled with 4 black teenagers in a convenience store parking lot. An exchange of insults ensued. Dunn, who was armed and clearly dangerous, claimed that he was threatened by Jordan Davis, a 17-year-old high school senior, and later claimed he saw the barrel of a shotgun coming from the SUV. There was no shotgun. No other witness saw anything that might resemble a shotgun. Dunn opened his door and fired 10 shots into the SUV as it drove away, killing Davis. Dunn then drove away without calling the cops and without ever mentioning that the boys had a shotgun. Under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, Dunn had the right to use lethal force to defend himself if he reasonably thought his life was threatened. Dunn's lawyer said, "I don't have to prove the threat, just that Michael Dunn believed it." The Jacksonville jury found Dunn guilty of 3 counts of attempted murder, but they couldn't come to a decision on his murder of Davis. In Florida, it is increasingly dangerous to be young, black, and male. In the New York Times recently, Samuel Bowles and Arjun Jayadev report in One Nation Under Guard that the U.S. now employs more private security guards than high school teachers. Tallying up all of what they call guard labor include police officers, prison guards, soldiers, etc. They come to a figure of 5.2 million more than all teachers at the levels. The guard labor share of all labor force in America has risen dramatically since the 1970s as inequality has reached new extremes. To read the story in its entirety, go to OurWeekly.com.
And now for the Our Weekly Events Calendar.
Home, identity, secrets, and lies. An African-American attorney with a career on the rise is shocked to discover she has an Iraqi half-sister in Wendy Graff's newest play, a hard-hitting drama about family conflict and clashing cultures, starring Diara Kilpatrick and directed by Shirley Jo Finney. It's the world premiere of Closely Related Keys at the Lounge Theater, 6201 Santa Monica Boulevard, Hollywood at 8 p.m. For info, call 323-960-7774.
March 10th through 14th.
Job Workshop. The Facts Job Preparation Workshops is a series of free workshops that will provide in-depth information and job search skills to participants who, upon completion, will have a competitive advantage when applying for employment opportunities. The program will be held at the Pace Westlake Work Source Center, 1055 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 900A, LA, March 10th through 14th, from 1:30 till 4:30 p.m. daily. Must be present on the first day to be enrolled. RSVP prior to workshop date required. Come dressed for success. For info, call 213-353-1677.
For a complete calendar listing, please visit OurWeekly.com/events.
Thank you for listening to the Black Press Audio Digest, Our Weekly Los Angeles edition,
For the week of March 6th through 12th, 2014.
a production of
Diaspora Audio Enterprises.